Yeah. Oh yeah, we did.
Yes. Yes. Hello, okay, can you think I can do this? I haven't done this in a month. I was saying, have you forgotten? Well, I haven't sat on a cushion in a month. You know, in terms of sitting on a cushion, right? I sat on chairs. Muscle memory. Yes, muscle memory. So you'll remember other things.
So nice to see you back.
We're good to go. Thank you.
Done.
Okay, we're getting ready. So welcome to the first in a 2-year program, first class of a 2-year program. Don't panic. This first one's just 5. Is it 5 weeks?
Yes.
I need a calendar. I need my. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the routine. I've been on vacation. Is this? Yeah. Okay. So, my name is Tendran. That's a Tibetan name. The word Ten means teaching, and the word Drun, D-R-O-N, means lamp. So it's an aspirational prayer to be a lamp on the teaching. So you see how that goes. Anyway, so how many people have never been to the center before? Okay. Have you found the bathrooms? They require a key, and they're usually in the doorknob. And you kind of have to turn the doorknob with the key, you know. And but please leave the key in the doorknob because there's more than one stall, and you know it's free to take the key with you. Plus, then you don't have a place to put it. So anyway, so that's always important. Everybody found the place to get some water and some tea if you like tea. It's in the back room. What else do I know? This organization, the Tujin goes in for the culture of wisdom. What's her name? For the wisdom culture? I don't know. It's some long name. If you see to your right, Shakyamuni Buddha statue, that is Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And to the left of the Shakyamuni statue is a picture of Lama Yeshe. There are founders. And Lama Yeshe died in 1984, but Lama Zopa Rinpoche continued all his visions. So that's how this international group of about, 160 centers evolved. So, and also through that, the Discovering Buddhism program, which is this 2-year, year and a half series of classes on all the major topics of the Tibetan Buddhist interpretation of how to become enlightened. So if you take all the classes, you won't be enlightened yet, probably, but you'll understand the path a little bit more. But this first one is by far, to me, the most important class because it's on mind and its potential. And everything in Buddhism is about the mind. It's the whole deal. According to the Buddha, everything we experience is created by mind. Not in the sense of, if I think it, it will, what is that movie? It will, they will come. Build dreams.
If you build it, they will come.
If you build it, they will come. It's not quite like that, but it is that if we want to have more happiness in our lives, less suffering in our lives, the method to do that is to take charge of our minds. So that's what we'll be talking about in this course. It's a bit academic at times because you learn a lot about the terms, the different states of mind. You know, like they actually have definitions of anger, and compassion, greed, aspiration. So the reason why we bother to go into those details is in case you're reading some Buddhist text, you have a clue what they're talking about. Because when you translate from a different language, and so this has been translated twice. It's been translated from the Sanskrit to the Tibetan, now to English. The terms that are used in any new language, they draw from words like mind. The word mind is an English word. We already have a definition of it. It probably won't match the Buddhist definition. Translators just use the closest word, but that can be confusing because we might use it in a different way. So we're going to kind of clear up some of those things. So, any questions right off the bat? I said my name. I told you where the bathrooms were. Mm-hmm. I will be sending an email out tonight with the readings that are recommended and meditations, that kind of stuff. Yes.
Can everybody hear you okay?
Can everybody hear me okay? No, Vicky cannot. Not to pick on Vicky.
I'm just gonna
Go ahead.
make her sit closer now.
I'll try not. If I start, I get louder and louder. So if it starts really irritating you, remind me that I have a microphone. Can you hear me now? Okay. Is that a speaker? Is it working?
Yes.
This sounds loud. Okay. All right. So let's start by just sort of bringing our mind in this room. And so a good way to do that is to spend a few moments going inward by just kind of sitting up straight, putting your feet on the floor if you're on a chair. If your feet don't reach the floor, it's good to put a cushion under them so that you don't have dangly feet syndrome. So, and of course, if you're trying out a cushion for the first time and decide not for you, it's okay to get up and sit in a chair. So anyway, the main thing when you're trying to settle the mind, well, meditation posture is very useful for even just when you need to take a few moments to calm the mind, because it helps balance the energies in the body. So sitting up straight is one of the key aspects. And just take a few belly breaths, let your tummy expand. Don't exaggerate breath. And then just take a moment to just check in with your body. just breathing naturally. Just see if your head is comfortable, if you're holding any of your muscles tense, like your jaw. And then scan down to your shoulders and torso. And just let all other sounds kind of fall to the background. Our neighbors are just introducing themselves before their acting class. And then just bring your attention in particular to the sensation of the breath going in and out at the tip of your nose. When you do something like this, you're anchoring your mind to a particular object, in this case, the sensation of breathing in and out. So what we're trying to do is stop following the other stories that are going on in our head, like planning for later, or what we were doing before we got here, or trying to listen to the conversations next door. And just rest right here. And try to remember the reason you came here this evening, whether it's curiosity, you've been interested in the teachings for a while and just want to deepen your knowledge. And then try to set a positive motivation based on that. A positive intention to use your time well. So a good way to listen, according to the Buddha, is with an open mind, with your intelligence. And we do this in hope, with the hope that it not just benefit ourselves in some way, even if it's just to satisfy our curiosity, but that it ripples out to benefit people around us, to help us become more gentle, kind, wise. So this is called like setting a motivation. Sometimes it's about correcting a motivation. If you realize that you're holding some frustration from earlier in the day, this gives you an opportunity to just reset, rethink how you want to use your time. Okay. So now just bring your attention to the room and to the others around you. So that's an exercise in anchoring the mind in what you're doing right this moment. Not in what you were doing in previous moments or what you're planning on doing in later moments, but, why am I here right now? Why did I come? What's my purpose in being here? And that helps us be more conscious about our choices because we choose, well, maybe everybody chooses to be here. I'm not positive. But if you chose to be here, you want to use your time well. And you're not in prison. You can leave at any time. So it's, it's a choice. So if you want to learn something new, then what does that require? Well, or at least listening. Yes, and preferably with an open mind. Why do you need an open mind to learn something new? Well, mostly because if it's a closed mind, there's no room. You know, if you've already decided you know, then there's nothing to learn. So having that kind of just listening was sort of like, I wonder what the Buddhist view is on this, you know. So, because that's all we're talking about here is the Tibetan Buddhist view on this. And so you can take it or leave it, you know, take parts of it if they seem to resonate with you. And if not, you know, move on. So, but you can't know that if you don't kind of listen with an open mind. So mind is very important. Oh, I have to plug it in. First things first. There's always technical difficulties. So for those of you who are hoping to take this whole course, I recommend, these are the ways to get the most out of this course, is to start meditating every day. No one ran out, that's good. Take notes during class. There's a lot of information that's given, and so it can be challenging to have a clue what was said. Read the materials that are recommended, and then think about the materials that you read. For most of us, it's a new topic, and so you really need more information, and it won't be enough. You won't be, you know, it won't be enough just to come and listen to me once a week. It's helpful to revisit the material and hear it from different people. Like there are a couple of readings by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. There's a reading by Lama Yeshe. There's a reading by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Those will all help you generate more knowledge and also more questions. And then you can bring the questions back. So it's helpful if you write down your questions because we tend to forget them 2 days later. You go, I know I had a question. What's that question? So it's okay also not to take notes, not to all of that. So we're going to start with what the definition of a person is in Buddhism, because this is one of those words that we use in English that means something slightly different in Buddhism. So a person is a being imputed independence on 4 or 5 aggregates. As I said, there's going to be new information here. So the word self, I, and person are synonymous in this tradition. So you can use them interchangeably. The 4 or 5 aggregates. So there's the form, there's feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and our main consciousness or primary consciousness. So one of these is material and 4 of these are not. 3 of them in particular are just states of mind. So form, the form is our body. It's the material aspect. So when we're referring to a person, it's, you know, our body. If you're referring to, and that's true of any kind of living being. So my body's not the same as a mosquito's, but a mosquito is a person. A mosquito has a mind. So all living things with a mind, it is appropriate to call them, or it, a person. The difference between my mind and this body and the mosquito's mind and its body is the body. Human beings have a really sophisticated support for their mind, which is called the brain. Mosquitoes have a really lousy physical support for their mind. But their mind is not different from our mind. It's trapped in a very useless body for this life. So hopefully it'll be a human being in this life. So when you talk about the form aggregate, you're talking about matter. So when you're talking about a person, you're talking about the body. When you're talking about a thing, you're talking about the stuff that it's made of. All the things are form. That's all it means. It's material things. Okay? So the cause of our human body is the sperm and the egg from our parents. So it has a physical cause, physical result. Make sense? The fourth aggregate is a compositional factor. This is everything that is produced, it's impermanent. It changes from moment to moment. That is not one of the other aggregates, such as the remaining 49 mental factors and any other awareness. Also, all non-associated compounded phenomena such as the self, impermanence, and other concepts that are neither mind nor matter alone. So the self is the name given to a body and mind. So it's not matter or consciousness. It's a name given to something that has two parts, or lots of parts, but it is body and mind. Don't worry about the fact that you have no clue what I'm talking about at the moment. This is just your first exposure to these terms. So, and some of them are more important than others. The primary or main consciousness, which is the fifth aggregate, is the aspect of the mind which perceives the mere entity of its object without elaboration. So it's basically our capacity to know, to interact with objects of mind. But without all the details, without all the judgments, without all the elaboration, it's just our capacity to meet with an object and recognize it. There are 6 types, so this is also quite different. So mind in Buddhism includes our eye awareness, nose awareness, ear awareness, tongue awareness, tactile awareness, as well as the mental awareness. So we're not talking about eyeball, we're talking about the eyeball is a physical support for eye awareness. The eye awareness knows shape and color. The ear awareness knows sounds. The tactile awareness knows sensations. If any of these, if there's something wrong with the physical support of these awarenesses, you won't have them. So you may have parts of it, you have an eyeball, but you can't see. So these are states of mind that are these are main minds that are highly dependent on its physical support. In the same way, the mental main mind is very dependent on the physical support of the brain or nervous system or whatever we decide is the support for our thoughts. So we all know this, that if you have a brain injury, that can affect how you think or how you express your thoughts or what you think about. My dad had Alzheimer's. It really, but every now and then, of course, he would just seem to know everything that he always knew. So his mind wasn't damaged, but his brain was. Because that would only last a little while. So the aggregates, when we talk about the person's name given to the aggregates, we're simply talking about the body and the mind. So there's one aggregate for the body, The rest are really types of consciousness or like compositional factors. So 4 is not really right. Lama Yeshe, who's the founder, this is just getting at the heart of it. I hope that you understand what the word spiritual really means. It means to search for, to investigate the true nature of the mind. There's nothing spiritual outside. My rosary or the mala, the things you use to count your prayers, isn't spiritual. The robes aren't spiritual. Spiritual means the mind, and spiritual people are those who seek its nature. This is the whole focus of Buddhism, is changing our minds in a particular direction, of course. So, these are key components to the Buddhist understanding of the mind. It's not physical. It's completely non-physical. So whereas our body is caused by physical components, our mind is not. A cause of a moment of mind is a previous moment of mind. It is without beginning and without end. What does that mean? It means everybody's mind in this room has always existed. Always. We just change bodies. And it will never end. Does it change? Yes, constantly. It is impermanent, but eternal. This is why you have to have a translator. So it is eternal in the sense that it has no beginning and no end. It is impermanent in the sense that it changes moment to moment. And not just, when you can't decide which movie to go see. What the teachings say is that in a finger snap, there's 65 moments of mind. Our mind is very, very fast. So to be able to investigate the mind, you need a pretty sophisticated physical support, like the human brain or the human whatever, central nervous system. What does this also imply? You don't have to buy it. Just what is it saying? Is this your only life? No, not according to Buddhism. Doesn't matter if you buy into that or not. And for most people, it takes years. People who grew up in cultures that don't have this idea that they're passing through the lines. And it doesn't matter as far as the understanding of the mind. Whether you believe in it or not, you can still take the explanations about the mind and how the mind works, and it can benefit your life right now. But when you're reading Buddhist texts, it's kind of important to know this so that you don't get confused by some assertions. Its ultimate nature is clear light. And this is kind of getting at the heart of this course, is talking about really what is the mind and how can we take our ordinary mind right now and become enlightened like a Buddha. And it's just mind. It's all about the mind. So part of the quality of mind is this purity. In other words, no matter how ugly, mean, greedy, selfish your thoughts are, none of those things actually damage your mind. The capacity to know, that ability to be clear and knowing. Because its ultimate nature is clear light. So the analogies that you hear about it, it's basically empty space in which our thoughts arise. It's the capacity to be able to think. It's like clear sky with clouds of thoughts going through it. It's like a canvas that we create our stories. But a key piece is, according to the Buddha, is it's never damaged. It's non-physical. You kind of can't damage it. But you can change the way you think, how you use it. And its function is to perceive. Any questions so far? Yes, Ralph.
I do have a question.
I'm not.
Earlier you said, that's probably not know this, but so that um, in composition, there are compositional factors to form, right? So
No, I didn't say that. I said one of the aggregates is compositional factors.
okay. That's in the actors. Okay. So here's the question. Here it is. Okay. He said in the formless realm, beings do not have a material aggregate.
Did I say that? Yeah. Or is that last year? Or 2 years? That was tonight? It was there. You're correct. It was there. Because I know I wrote it. I just don't remember saying it.
So my question then becomes, does the mind require material form?
Okay, so this is a debatable point. So basically, generally speaking, we say yes, that the mind is inseparable from a body. How subtle that body is another thing. Like right now, we have this very gross physical body. It's quite obvious, it suffers a lot. In the formless realm, it's just like a subtle energy. Okay? And whether they, so we say that the mind actually always is inseparable from the body, but it's from a body. Let's be more specific. So, okay?
So it always needs some kind of support as to however subtle it might be.
To move.
Okay.
That's so they, it's like a very, very, very subtle energy. So it's not physical. It's without beginning and end. Its ultimate nature is clear light. This is the very good news, which means no matter how stuck we might feel in the way we think, we can change it. And its function is to perceive. So the cause of mind is a previous moment of mind. And we have a continuum of mind. So in other words, all your thoughts from this life and all lives are your mental continuum. They're not mine. They're not anybody else's. Everybody in here has a distinct continuum of mind. It's not, the reason they use the word continuum is that each moment of mind arises, abides for a very, very brief amount of time, and then disintegrates. Now that's also true of physical things, like physics tells us. So it's not just that this cup will eventually cease to work as a cup because it just will fall apart or get run over by a car or whatever. But in every moment, all of its atoms are changing and the electrons and da-da-da. I mean, it's literally constantly, we just can't see it because our eyeballs aren't very good. If they were electron microscopes, we could see all the motion. And it's defined as being mere clarity and awareness. So mere clarity. So on one level, more the gross level, the clarity refers to the fact that the mind is non-physical, it's space-like, it's completely void of shape and color and form. It allows for the mind's natural capacity to experience objects as they are without distortion. So you know how there are different qualities of mirrors? You have it really, if you just have polished metal That can reflect, but it's not particularly good. Might be curved, so it distorts the image. Or fun, what do they call them in amusement parks? Funhouse mirrors. So they're very distorted. We don't need them anymore because we can just do it with our phones. So, but you know, the better the mirror is, the more exact the reflection is. Well, the mind has a capacity to be free of distortion. However, we distort it with our thoughts. So right at the moment, if you're an ordinary being like myself, your thoughts kind of mess up the reflection. So we don't have an accurate view. Sometimes we sometimes have a valid view, but it's not reflecting reality accurately because of our thoughts. So, you know, it's like that, I don't know where they say it. Anyway, but everybody in this room sees me from a different perspective. And one of those is the eye awareness. You're all looking at me from a slightly different place. I don't see me at all. You know? I mean, I see parts of me. Yes.
How is accuracy determined though? Like, if we all have a different perception based on experience, what is without distortion?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's basically, and that is what we have to investigate, you know, because it really isn't, it's about one, you know, so like in this example, what it is accurate to say is that each of us have a different perspective. And they're all correct. From one aspect, they're all correct. You know, the angle you're seeing me at, 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 you're seeing me at. All of those, you know, are legitimate. They're valid because you're sitting in different places. Okay. Then we also have, you know, all the different other stuff we put into it. Like, how did she walk out of the house looking like that? You know, that comes up for some people. I had someone ask me that. You know, still just cracks me up. But, you know, we have views. You know, we immediately pretty much go to judgments. Oh, I like her voice. I don't like her voice. Would she shut up? Or is she ever going to explain all those words that were up on the screen? Because none of them make any sense. You know, we have opinions and things that color. Or it can be things like, I am so tired that if this class doesn't get more interesting, I'm going to start snoring. You know, because the fatigue is influencing our view, you know, and our judgment. And according to the Buddha, none of those are accurate. You know, they're being influenced by other things. Because there isn't according to Buddhism, and this, you know, we'll go more into this, but, you know, there is no such thing as like a perfect voice. It's all a matter of opinion. Anybody, I am so old. Okay, anybody ever see the Antiques Roadshow? Okay, so these days, they show a lot of reruns, and they'll show you whether the thing that the value, you know, they put a value on it, whether it's gone up or down in the 20 years since the show first aired, right? Well, that's because it's a matter of opinion, how much it's worth. Doesn't necessarily always go up because now it's older. It just depends on whether people are interested in it in this particular time. So some things actually don't have. You know, we are so accustomed to, I shouldn't say we. I am so accustomed to wanting to be right about something that it's hard to accept this kind of groundless place that says there is no right when you're talking about our view of qualities in someone else particularly. because we can't see their minds. We have no idea what they're thinking. And everything that is, so this is where we're going. Okay. At its most subtle level, clarity refers to the empty nature of the mind. And this is a big, difficult concept in Buddhism. The selfless, emptiness. So what does it mean to say the emptiness of the mind? All it is saying is that the mind does not exist in some inherent, fixed, permanent way. You know, have you ever thought, well, I was just born that way? I'm just a jealous person. I was just born that way. Well, I'd surprise a few people, not say angry, or impatient, or whatever. You know, we just decide that, oh, I'm just like that. That it's my nature. That would be true if we existed inherently. So the idea of not existing inherently means that, that there's nothing static. Nothing static about our mind. We're not just angry. We might have moments of anger. It's the same way that physical things actually aren't static, even though they look static. When we first see something we're attracted to, what do?
Grasp it.
Yeah.
Desire it.
We desire it. We kind of turn our attention towards it. But that doesn't mean we have a nature that says, oh, I'll always be attracted to this. It's the same as those antiques. It's very changeable. The mind, a simple explanation of why the mind doesn't inherently exist is because it is dependent. And it's dependent on causes and conditions. So a cup is dependent. It's dependent on causes and conditions like what?
Gravity.
Okay. So the fact that I can hold it is somewhat due to gravity. When I drop it, that's somewhat to do with gravity and lack of coordination. So, but what are the causes and conditions of a cup, of this cup?
Shape.
Yeah, probably.
Shape.
Well,
Thought.
somebody said, oh, I'm going to design a cup. And it's going to be this shape, and it's going to be this color, it's going to be made out of this material. And then somebody built a machine so they could do that. It has lots of causes and conditions. The substantial cause of a metal cup is metal. So meaning that the material is metal with a plastic top. Mind is the same way. It is dependent. What are our thoughts dependent upon?
The previous moment.
Well, that's what causes any moment of mind. We couldn't have a moment of mind if we didn't have a previous moment of mind. It is the cause. What influences our mind? Experiences. Emotions. Whether we're familiar with it or not. We can even see it. One of my favorite stories is the first time a ship came to an island, with people who had never seen a ship before, how long it took before they noticed anything there. Because they had no frame of reference. So it just was part of the horizon. And then it had to get close enough to where their eye awareness was able to distinguish it being separate from other objects around it. So we don't even have, if we have no familiarity with something, we may not even see it. It just blends in with the background. So it's dependent, our awareness of something might be dependent of our any kind of knowledge about it. No. We learn so much as children, it's kind of hard to imagine seeing something that we have no knowledge of at all. And of course, now at TV, computers, movies, perhaps there's nothing. This is also the good news, the fact that this is the same thing about this, the fact that it is empty of inherent existence means it can change, depending on the causes and conditions. The major cause and condition for us to change our minds is us taking control of the mind and deciding to change our mind. The awareness just refers to the activity of knowing, the activity of engaging or experiencing or apprehending an object. All minds have an object. There isn't a moment of awareness without an object. The object can be things that are external to us. It can be thoughts, concepts. Most of our thoughts, or most of the things that arise in the mind, are concepts. So mind is our capacity for subjective experience. It's dependent on an object. Main minds. So we divide the mind in Buddhism in order to further our understanding of it into main minds and mental factors, sometimes called primary consciousness and mental factors, or secondary minds. Sometimes, so they use all sorts of terminology. So basically, though, you're talking about sort of the container of the mind, which is the main mind, and then the mental factors are those things that are arising in that space. The trouble with the word container is it implies boundaries, and there aren't any. If you wanted to think about your favorite dessert, you would do it right now with no problem. You could probably go to the restaurant that it exists, or into your refrigerator. You know all the ingredients if you cook it yourself. That's easy. So there really aren't boundaries to the mind because it's non-physical. The mental factors are the things that get into the details. So we're beyond reflection now. We're now into elaboration. So we basically, I won't say that yet. But the main mind and its mental factors are a single entity. We're not talking about a whole bunch of minds. Just the mental factors, although we call them states of mind, we're just talking about one event, one mental event. It can happen because of our capacity that our main mind does. All main minds, every single one of them, whether it's eye awareness, ear awareness, a mental awareness, have 5 states of mind that are always with it. Contact, discernment, feeling, intention, and attention. So even with the eye awareness, apprehending this cup, all of these things happen. They're always there at every moment of mind. Contact is just the mental factor that actually meets when the mind meets the object, you make contact. This word actually makes sense. It fits. Good translated. Discernment, sometimes translated as discrimination, sometimes translated as recognition. It's the ability, it's the mental factor that can distinguish one thing from another, which is why, you have to have a little bit of information to be able to do this if you've never seen something before. So for people who've never seen a boat before, they can't distinguish it from other parts of the horizon until it gets close enough. So it knows the characteristics of an object. Eventually it knows the label, like we all learned that this is called a cup. If our discernment is weak, we won't really take it in. We won't really know that we won't remember having seen the object or engaged with the object. Feeling is super, super, super important, and it accompanies every single moment of mind that we have. It is the happy, suffering, or neutral experiences that we have. So it's just simply that. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. None of the story yet. So it's just when we make contact with an object, we're either attracted towards it or averse away from it or sort of neutral about it. This, according to Buddhism, is the ripening of our karma. The reason why we're attracted to red is from past habit of being attracted to red, because when we've had red, good things have happened. His Holiness calls it the color of happiness.
So if you're attracted to something that it could be that you, like in the past, did something that was good for you,
Good for you has nothing to do with it.
oh, okay. So like, because it's something that you're constantly doing, it's turning to not get good, but at the same time you're continuing to move towards it.
Yeah, because we're not very wise. Okay, and so we'll get into that too. Because basically what that indicates is we're ignorant about what actually makes us happy. So feeling is the mental factor that kind of kickstarts everything. You know, where if we find something desirable, we get pulled into wanting it. If we find something repulsive, we want to be separated from it. Our feelings are the reason we live in the desire realm. So according to Buddhism, there's 6 realms of existence. That God, you're sharing it with someone you like or whatever. The demigod realm is sort of like almost that, but not quite. So you're kind of jealous of the God realm. The human realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm. These are spirits we can't see who are hungry ghosts, which because they can't eat or drink food or drink. Everything looks like pus and disgusting things. And then the hell realm. They're like, I don't know, lots of hells. Occasional hells, adjoining hells, neighboring hells. I had someone from the Catholic tradition come up to me one time and said, oh, I just love Buddhism because they're never talking about fear or hells. And I'm going, ooh, I'm sorry, you just missed that class. So,
doesn't Buddhism have the most hells?
probably, why? Because it's the mind. If you can, it will, you may go there. So, but these realms are describing mental experiences. These are all realms in which we are considered in cyclic existence, where we're subject to birth, death, illness, old age. Thank you. So birth, illness, old age, and death, to get them in their proper order. So again and again and again, because we're out of control and we're stuck here. And you can be stuck in the hell realms, the animal realms, the hungry ghost realm, not stuck as in eternally. That cannot happen. We're stuck there for as long as that karmic seed. So this is complicated. So we'll be revisiting this issue again and again and again until that seed exhausts. So right now, we've all created the cause to be born as human beings, the best rebirths, because who did I hear say it's like the Goldilocks of rebirths? Because it's just right. Oh, I heard you, because you had just enough suffering to want to get out, but not so much suffering that you don't have any leisure time. So you're all here, which means you have some free time. That's separate from having to, find food, all those things, find shelter, money for those things. So not everybody who has a human rebirth has a perfect human rebirth. So those of us who have good conditions, who have the time to investigate our minds, who have the condition to meet the teachings, who have, who speak the language of the, books, teachers, all that stuff. So it wouldn't help. Like, for example, if you're born next to a Tibetan monastery in India and you don't speak Tibetan, you're not going to learn anything there because the classes are all in Tibetan. So that would be close, but no. So, but feelings and the desire realm kind of sums up our situation. It's the principal driver of our actions of body and speech. If we have a pleasant feeling, we want more. We want, we will be drawn to the pleasant, what we consider the object of that pleasant feeling, what's the condition for it. If we don't like it, we'll want to get away from it. We will feel pain if we cannot get away from it, from, just being annoyed to being downright terrified, all of those things. Or we might be neutral, which means we don't really notice it at all. It's not particular interest. And mostly, we have a lot of those things during the day. It's both a conditioned response and a conditioning response. It's a conditioned response because the reason I'm, attracted to things of the desire realm is because I built up a habit of being desired, being attracted to things. So there are lots of them. So I'm in a world where there's lots of them, some of which I find attractive. Some that, you'll spend an awful lot of hours at work earning the money to be able to get. We're kind of crazy with all the time we spend at work because of all the things we want to get. Now, why are we attracted and repulsed by things? What would be the underlying reasoning there? Some of it's survival.
Happiness.
Some of it's because we think it'll bring us happiness. If we want to avoid it, it might be because of survival, But it's because we think it brings suffering in some form. It might be annoyance, or it might be death, So the Buddha said, this is one of our fundamental mistakes, is thinking that happiness and suffering are caused by things external to us. The idea of, oh, he made me angry. In Buddhism, that's kind of not possible. There might be a condition for anger, but it's your habit that causes anger to arise. And we all know this, or we can see this in action because we see different people responding to the same conditions in differing ways. And that reflects different habits. Any questions? If you have no clue about anything, we can go back to the point at which you lost the pet. Any questions? You understand this idea of habit.
Well, I'd like to just address this topic of feelings going on, because from what I'm reading here, it's like, and I know it's actually true in my life, I feel the pain of my existence to a large degree. But that seems to be pointing out here is that it's the feelings that cause not all.
What are the feelings?
Well, what are the feelings?
Yeah.
They could be happiness, sadness, grief, positive or negative.
It's happy, suffering, or neutral. It's the experience of those three things. And of course, there's a wide in suffering is wide, pleasure is wide, all of those things. There's no story with this. It is just, the mental factor of feeling is just pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Okay? So if our mind well, we don't even have to go outside of this life. I mean, when you think about it, there are certain things we've been practicing since birth, practically. And this is why we come to statements like, oh, I was just born that way. Because we have been practicing the habits all of our life of, say, being impatient or kind. My younger brother was just born generous. He was just always generous. He never went anywhere without wanting to buy some, bring something back to his siblings. I mean, I remember him doing that at 2. I mean, he's just always that way. Well, that in Buddhism, the explanation for that is that in previous lives, he practiced generosity. So much so that even as a child, he practiced generosity. It's a strong habit of mind. And by, go ahead.
So these basic unpleasant, pleasant, and neutral, even those seem to be some sort of projection or layering on top of what is.
Yes, yes. It's the result of our karma. Okay? This is a vast topic. So feeling, okay, the big picture view. Okay, so according to the Buddha, our consciousness has always existed, and we've basically been changing hotel rooms. So in each life, we have a new body, new kind of circumstances that go with that body. But all of them are taking place in what's called cyclic existence, being subject to birth, illness, aging, and death. That is due to us misunderstanding how we actually exist. Those things occur. We're stuck in samsara because we think that things exist in some sort of permanent, inherently existent way. So if something we like comes into our awareness, we think that that object will always produce that feeling. And that's not true. I mean, intellectually, we can look at things and know that that's not true. But according to the Buddha, we respond to it as if it's absolutely true. And we grasp at that. We want to be happy, we just have more and more and more of that. Following me so far? All right. So in order to get that, we'll do all kinds of things. We'll completely, if that is someone you want, is another person you want to be involved with, you might even completely change how you dress, how you talk. You'll do anything that you can think of that you think will make you attracted to them. Because we think that's where happiness is. It's getting that object of attraction. Does that make sense? Okay. The Buddha said, wrong, 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 wrong. All of that's just wrong. You're not going to get happiness that way. You may have moments of pleasure that way. You are not going to have the happiness that is possible given the mind that we have. Our capacity for happiness is much greater than the temporary pleasures that we experience because of this body, all of our senses, all those wonderful tastes, sounds. But we chase after all those things that we like, the forms of those things that we like. And when we'll actually, do all sorts of things that when we look back, go, I can't believe I said that, or I did that, or or spent that money on that, whatever, Because we've woken up to the fact that this has not brought us lasting happiness. So, the way to break free of this repetitive cycle of chasing after happiness in all the wrong places, as they say, is to educate ourselves about how things actually exist and how the mind works. To understand how we're being led around by the nose by our states of mind. That our mind, right at the moment, lies to us all the time. It's just wrong. If we get this job or lose this much weight or have these clothes or have this much money in the bank or none of our kids are sick or, all the different things that we say that I will be happy when those exist is not necessarily so. It's dependent on our mind. We see people who have all the money in the world, all the fame in the world, all the success in the world, and they're miserable because their minds aren't okay. We see people in circumstances we can't imagine living in who seem to be content. It's because of the mind.
So that's sort of what I'm asking, even at that fundamental level, things are not inherently pleasant or unpleasant.
No.
Or neutral.
Yeah. Things, in fact, have nothing to do with it. Our senses have something to do with it. And our conditioned responses. But, in fact, they have a meaning in terms of experience. The more we work on our mind, the more we will be completely unaffected by what's happening out here. Not in terms of, not unaffected in the sense of being detached. It's not like you get to the point where, you don't care what your kids are doing because, they're out here. It's not like that. It's that you understand that your peace of mind isn't dependent on what's happening out here. It's like when parents recognize that their kid, they can't protect their kids from suffering. They can't fix everything. They can't make it all better. They can't protect them from harm. And that even if they, kind of kept them in a room that had no sharp edges or whatever, it wouldn't, they still could get hurt. So there's no reason to have the fact that they're going to get hurt disturb our state of mind. Because it's just reality. So if you're trying to raise your kids with no chance of them being hurt, you are going to suffer. Because that's not possible. You can't do anything about that. So all you do is worry about how do I protect my kids. It's what I call, it's in some sutra somewhere, fruitless fatigue.
Oh, no. That might be the hell.
Yes, that's, the occasional hell of raising a teenager. It's not that you don't care what happens to the kid. It's that you recognize your limits.
Yeah, because the opposite of avoiding suffering would be to deposit joy. You can't be responsible for depositing joy for a child because
No.
then you become empty yourself.
Well, I mean, you
That's
can't,
your own suffering.
it's, you know, you can only take care of your own sphere of influence, so to speak, in the sense of our minds. We can't change other people's minds. We can help people, we can, you know, do all sorts of things, we can improve conditions, but we can't change their habits of mind. We can change our own habit of mind. So feeling, anyway, we'll keep talking about this because this is a key part of understanding how the mind works. Oh, I didn't finish the big picture, did I? I won't finish the big picture tonight. Anyway, so here you are going along, you're stuck in this cycle of birth, death, and birth and death, and birth and death, and birth and death, okay? Every moment of mind, you know, those 65 you just had, places an imprint on your mental continuum. So every moment of anger places an imprint of anger in your mental continuum. So what does that what happens to that imprint? It's deeper and deeper and deeper. So have you ever had a bad day where you got, you know, something, you know, happened and so you were angry in the morning and then that affected your whole day? You know, it's like then you were just irritated about everything. And just it's partly from this energy of that initial moment of anger. You know, it just spirals sort of out of control. That wouldn't happen if you didn't have this imprint of anger. Now everybody has it because of our mistaken understanding of what makes us happy, which is getting what we want. And when we don't get it, we get angry. So from that mistaken idea, and then what do we do with that anger, that moment of anger? What's the first thing that usually pops in our head? The rationalization of why we're angry.
Blaming it on somebody.
Yeah. I wouldn't be angry if you hadn't done that. It's your fault. And then we justify it. And we keep rehearsing that over and over again. We call our friends and say, you won't believe what so-and-so did to me. You know, so we're practicing, we're dragging it out, we're creating a whole story around this moment of anger. And so now it's 7,322 moments of anger. You know, so it gets stronger and stronger. Every thought, every moment of mind places an imprint. So, you know, you can see it in easy habits, like you get up in the morning and you know, shower, get dressed, go to work. That comes from our habit of being responsible, dependable, our recognition that we need money to eat and pay our bills, all those things. So we've developed habits. Now, if you hate your job and you rehearse that, what happens?
Your hate for it grows.
Yeah, what happens? So how are your days going?
Oh,
They're going to be crappy. That's exactly so. So,
Why?
And-
Just like laughing of why are good habits so hard to repeat? Like it just seems.
I'm not sure they are. So, I mean, you know, like I think most people are kind, helpful. We have all sorts of good habits. Most people are compassionate when they hear about someone suffering.
Or even like a practice or something you're trying to do that's good. It just seems like those don't naturally repeat.
I don't think that's true.
No?
I don't think we rejoice enough in all our good qualities. We don't notice. Mostly because we're focused on what everybody else is doing to us and not looking at what we're doing. So one of the keys to understanding our mind is to start looking at it, to take some time to develop the skill of looking at what's going on in our mind. We need to see if I just have negative thought after negative thought after negative thought after negative thought. Am I just judging this person, that person, this person? Am I expecting this, and this, and this, and this, and this? Am I always disappointed? And blah, 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 blah. We want to see